When and where were you born?
I was born in the country out here in Edwards County, December 10th, 1920.
What did your parents do for a living?
Farmed.
Can you tell me about what life was like growing up?
Well, it was just, we get up about 5 o'clock in the morning and go out and milk cows and feed the hogs, chickens, everything. Then if there any farm work to do, we went ahead and done that.
Can you describe who lived with you?
Oh, it was, my dad, he was born here in Kinsley. My mother, she came from Missouri. They had 9 boys. I was the next to the youngest.
What chores did you have?
Oh, milking cows, getting out on the tractor and farming, feeding the chickens, getting eggs, everything.
Where did you go to school?
I just went to the 8th grade country school. I didn't go to high school.
How did you get to school?
Walked or rode a horse.
How far was the school away?
A mile and a half.
What kind of things did you do for fun?
Oh, play baseball, and bat the mitten around tin cans or something like that. Ride horses on the weekends, take trips on horses.
What is the first thing you remember about the Dust Bowl?
Big old cloud coming up in the west. About 8 o'clock in the morning, and came up. My mom, she wet cloths and stuff, covered the windows with wet cloths, and it hit about 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, and you couldn't see nothing. Chickens even went to roost. It got so dark. Then that night, wind came up, blowed some plaster off the upstairs bedroom. My brother was laying there asleep. Next morning, his eyes was covered with plaster. He learned how to plaster them. I just hung around the place and done what you could see. So it lasted sometime 2 or 3 days. But that's about it.
Well, what were the dust storms like?
Yeah, it's like going to bed. Couldn't see much. And just dusty. You just couldn't do hardly anything.
What do people think the dust storms were caused by?
Dry weather and no rains or anything, no snow. We'd get a blizzard and that'd be about all the moisture we'd get. Seemed like back then.
Do you remember what you would do when a storm came through?
Well, just gathering around and see what was going to happen. And whenever it hit, you had to head for cover somewhere or have something you do in the dark. But as a rule, a lot of times I'd be out farming, listing, trying to keep stuff from blowing. Have a lister on behind the tractor, and you'd guess which was a straight way to go through the field. Get the fence, you turn around and come back and keep that up all day to try to keep crisscrossing to keep the dust from blowing. We didn't have no electricity, but in the mornings you just kind of aim where you thought that corral fence was. Then you'd go out there and follow that around and the cows would generally be at the door to get in, so, and go in the milk, come back in and separate milk. At one time there, we sold milk to a milk factory at Larned. They'd come and get, they had these 10-gallon cans, they'd pick them up, take it to Larned and make cheese and stuff. Then they'd bring back the whey and stuff out of the milk to us for the pigs and stuff. And you could buy cheese off of them and everything else at that time.
You didn't have electricity. What did you use for your lights?
A lantern lamp in the house, out the barn. We didn't use nothing out in the barn. Daddy never would let us use anything that had any fire to it out there. So, but
What health conditions did people have because of the weather?
well, they tried to keep them clean, but you just keep sweeping and mopping, and you know, hardly ever could open a window to get air in, so you just have to breathe what came through the cracks, I guess. So I don't know, it was rough back then.
Did anybody you know move during the Dust Bowl?
Not right around our place. Out there where we lived, he was generally a neighbor within a half a mile of us, just all around. And if anything went wrong, we could always call a neighbor. We did have telephones back then.
What, if anything, do you remember about government programs at that time?
Well, they came out and give the farmers so much to leave a piece of land out, pay them so much to leave it set alone, and I think they paid them so much an acre to just keep them from planting it and everything like that. And I don't think they paid anything outside of that. I went to the soil conservation program, they called it at that time. It was just like going in the Army. You'd go in there and they were building a dam down in Park County. I helped build that dam down there, and started out on a rock quarry, making little rocks out of big rocks. Then you finally get up where you can drive a truck or something to haul rocks back and forth and dirt. And I stayed there for 18 months, and they were going to move, so I got out. But they finished the dam. It was finished when I left, but they was moving to Arkansas or something, so I got out. Back to working with whoever I could get a job with.
How much did you get paid?
$30 a month. You had to send, I think it's 25 of it home or something like that to your folks. You kept the other $5 to pay for your
And where did
good
you
times.
Where did you live when you were down there?
We had barracks. There was about 30 people, I imagine, in barracks, lined up beds on each side, just like the Army. And they had sergeants and corporals and everything like that too, lieutenant and a commander. And you had to fall out every morning for roll call, make sure you were there. It was just like the Army. You got up at the bugle call, and you'd have to fall out and count, see everybody was there. Then you'd march down the kitchen, and everybody ate in the same Well, they had two different companies. Each one of them had a different mess call. We'd line up and go down those mess calls, and they fed good. So, and that's about. Because I don't remember the dirt blowing in down there like it was, but that's kind of different country. That's all pasture land down there, and it didn't bother us much there if it did. But and it was interesting. Kept you busy. But I stayed there about 18 months. Then came home. And some farmer hired me for a year, so. But then Army's after me, so.
How old were you when you were in the CCC?
17. You're supposed to be 18, but my mom signed the paper for me to go.
What year did you go to work for the CCC?
1935. I got out in 38. It was interesting to go in there, a bunch of guys. Every Saturday night, I got up where I was driving the truck, hauling people back and forth to town. We'd go every Saturday night to go to Dodge or Silmer or Ashland to a picture show down there, and once in a while dance or something at Dodge City. And it was, they kept you on the go, kind of. But they wasn't too many of them drop out. Once you got in there, you'd have a hard time getting out without a dishonorable discharge or something. So.
Was it worth the pay?
It was worth it. Well, it kept you busy and you something to do rather than just sit around. And back in those other days, you just. I went to work one day on the right about a day or two after a dust bowl to do some work on the farm, and anyhow, I forgot to fill my thermos bottle up. I stopped at a windmill, and as I walked up to the pump, there's a little pond down below it, and there was at least 100 jackrabbits down there. And just as soon as I reached for that water spigot, those things started jumping on me all over, and I didn't even get my drinking water there. I went to another place. I was afraid they were going to bite my bare skin or something. But we had fun and everything like that too. So.
Please reflect on what happened during this time influenced you in later years.
It taught me how to work anyhow, and I had to keep busy to keep out of trouble. That's one thing, it'll keep you out of trouble if you keep working. So, but as far as that, I generally had a job. A lot of times it was herding cattle out in pasture or field where there's some weeds or something. Herding cattle for $1 a day on a horseback. Maybe half section or so. Maybe 50 to 60 head of cattle. But that, you can always find something to do.
During the 30s, did you have enough to eat?
Yeah.
Okay. What did you eat? What were your...
We always had chickens and stuff, and pigs in the fall. We'd always butcher about 6 hogs, and I know neighbor lived north of us, west of us, big fat guy, he always loved to eat pig ears, and he'd always come up and help us butcher for the ears of the pigs. And we'd butcher about 6 of them and hang them up the driveway of the granary, let them cool out overnight. Next day, get them down and cut them into pieces, and hams and shoulders and ribs and everything, and cure the hams and take them down and hang them in the granary and leave them there. And summertime, get hungry for a ham. Mom, she'd always go down and get a shoulder or a ham out of the granary and had bacon. It was generally pretty solid. But it kept us eating though.
How did you feed those animals during the Dust Bowl days?
Slop, corn. Oh, we raised a little corn, mile, just enough to keep them feeding. Had these old corn shellers, you turn by hand, put the roast meat in there and shell that. That run into work.
How big was your father's farm?
We had one pasture went section and a half. It was up in Hodgman County. But during the Dust Bowl days, the north fence on that got some piled up. That we put a new fence on the top of the old fence for about halfway. Dirt piled up around the fence. All you could see is posts sticking out on top.